Hi everyone, I hope you're all having a great week. This week I'm doing some more work in my personal art journal. I sketched an image of a young woman facing forward, and my theme for this week's painting is courage. I'm going to start painting my image using my Decadent Pies watercolor palette. It's one of my favorite watercolor sets, and a lot of the colors in this set are useful for painting skin tones. When painting with watercolors, it's always good to add the lightest shades of color first. Here I'm keeping my values at their lightest by making sure that I dilute the color with lots of water. Then I start to add darker values of colors in the areas of the face where there would be shading. Areas in a portrait that would typically be most shaded would include the eyes, underneath the nose, underneath the lips, underneath the hairline, and of course underneath the chin. Adding darker values of color not only helps to create more contrast in a painting, but it also helps to give a portrait more dimensions. Using a mix of different colors in my current palette, I've created a neutral gray that I'll use to do even more shading. It can sometimes be a little daunting to start adding these darker values of color for shading. Sometimes there's a little voice in my head that says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what are you doing? Stop that. You're going to make your painting look ugly if you do that." This is when I like to remind myself to keep working through my process, because yes, painting is very much a process, and there are many layers and steps to creating artwork we like. It takes time, practice, exploration, patience, and lots of self-compassion to proceed courageously in this artistic process. When I take the courageous steps to keep going in my process, my painting starts to come alive. I really do think it takes a lot of courage for a person to put themselves out there as an artist. Art is definitely not a very conventional way for a person to make a living, and there will always be well-meaning people trying to steer you in a different direction. And of course, art is always subject to criticism. An artist's creative expression is uniquely personal, and of course it makes sense that we would feel hurt when someone doesn't like the work we create. It's important to remember that art is very subjective, and most of us don't share the same tastes. And thank goodness we don't. Wouldn't the world be a boring place if everything was exactly the same everywhere? Diversity makes this world more beautiful. I love that creativity can give us all a chance to express our own unique perspective. Shading has really helped to breathe some life into my portrait. Now I'm adding another layer of that first skin tone I put on my portrait. After letting this last layer of paint dry, I'm now ready to start working on my young lady's hair. While I let this first layer of paint dry on her hair, I'm going to start working on her garment. I think her hair will look more interesting if I use different shades of brown and red to create her hair strands. I'm feeling satisfied with the hair I've created for my young lady, so now I'm going to start working on my background again. I've decided that the young lady I am painting here is not only very intuitive, but she's also very intelligent and cerebral. The swirls I've decided to create in the background of my painting are symbolic of the element of air, and air is symbolic for activity of the mind. I'm feeling really happy about my background, so now I'm going to start working on the face again. Here I've pulled out a water-soluble marker and I'm going to start working on her lips, and I'll use some of the color from her lips to add some color around her eyes. Using some water and a round brush, I'm going to start adding some of the diluted form of this color to her cheeks. After adding some more vibrant shades of color to my subject's face, I want to now start working on adding some darker details to her face. One of my favorite tools for creating these dark details in the eyes is a black Posca paint pen. After just a few small strokes of black around her eyes, her face is starting to become a lot more interesting. Even though I really like working with that black Posca marker, it would look very harsh if I used it everywhere in her face. So I've pulled out a few more of my water-soluble markers in different shades of color that are more closely related to neutral skin tones, and I'm starting to darken certain areas of her face using these markers. I used the fine tip end of these markers to add a little bit more detail to her hair as well. Now I'll use two different Neo Color 2 crayons to add a little bit more color to her eyes. Using a white pen, I'll now start to add a few highlights to her face. It's really neat how a few little white dots in the right place can make her eyes look so different. Using my black Posca pen again, I'm going to start giving her a bit of jewelry. Here I'm using a white pen to add some dots of light on her third eye. For me, true intellect is a balance of mind, body, and spirit. When I am mindful and respectful of my whole self, it is much easier for me to step into my courage. Stepping into my courage means speaking my truth, living my values, and being respectful of my needs as a human being. As much as I want to be respectful, helpful, and kind to other people, being respectful, helpful, and kind to myself sometimes means that I have to say no when other people ask me to do something that just doesn't sit well with me. Something as simple as the word no can be an important step to setting healthy boundaries. But this little two-letter word is not always easy to say, and it takes a lot of courage to own our truth and to speak our truth when we need to. So this little painting is an homage to being courageously me and living and speaking my truth. In a demanding world such as ours, it's not always easy to do so, and I guess it wouldn't be so courageous if it was. Thank you for making the time to join me on this journey. I hope you have a wonderful week and happy creating!